Hello and welcome. It's time for another Magnus Protocol review. This is episode 25, Gut Feelings. But before we get into episode 25, real quick, I wanted to talk about a comment that I got on the last episode. A couple different comments that talked about how last episode could have been a homunculus. I want to give like a full breakdown of homunculi in the special video that is going to be just about alchemy, and that is still coming. I'm still working on making sure I have everything sorted out there. I want to make sure I have all my facts right, but just real quick, I'm gonna talk about that and then we'll move into the episode. If you only care about this episode, you don't care about homunculuses at all, homunculi, skip ahead to the timestamp that will be on screen, and that way you don't have to deal with it. But if you do care, so I had originally considered, yeah, maybe a homunculus, and then I'd pushed it away simply because in actual historical and mythological and alchemy, hermeticism, homunculi are little people. They are the creature in the flask, right? The spirit in the flask. It is the idea that you take originally a human being, a sperm cell, and you put it in a horse's womb. Look, alchemy gets weird, okay? And then you do some other stuff that I really don't want to get into here. We will get into in the other video on how that happens. But what comes out is a little man, the being in the flask, right? And the reason I had originally discounted homunculus from last week's episode was because, well, clearly that's not a little man. That's not a baby. It's not a person. It is a creature. However, folklore has changed homunculi, and especially pop media has changed homunculi, and now in a lot of things homunculi are all kinds of different things, right? I mean, if you've seen Full Metal Alchemist, the homunculus there are not just little people, right? And so it's very possible that that is a homunculus, especially because it was a birth that she didn't remember and things were wrong, and he's a little Rupert, so definitely wanted to call that out. Thank you for everybody that commented on that. And just to give the credit where it's due, the first person that I saw that brought up the homunculus here, Fruity Garlic. So Fruity Garlic, thank you so much for that. But there were definitely other people that brought it up as well. I just wanted to give credit where it was due for the first person that I saw that mentioned it. And yeah, it absolutely could be, right? It could even be like a demiurge, which is a whole different thing that, like I said, we'll get into with the alchemy video. I promise you it is still coming. I have all of the historical alchemy stuff and hermeticism stuff and druidism stuff written down. I just now need to get into the actual metals, which that's also where we'll get into the demon worship and all the other stuff that comes with that. So, I want some time on that. I want to make sure I get all of that right before I present it to you, because I don't want to present anything wrong, and I definitely want to approach it with a hey, alchemy, yeah, the study of alchemy, especially the chemistry side of it, has brought us some great things. Alchemy is also terrifying and really messed up and has led to a lot of terrible things, including a lot of sacrifices that were made of people. So if you haven't learned that already from Magnus Protocol, we'll get into that in the alchemy video. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I'm talking too much about stuff that's not happening today. Today we're here to talk about episode 25, Gut Feelings. So, our classification is CAT-2RB 2474-07022 024-240-42024. Which, again, that's I haven't yet cracked that code. I want to. I feel like there's definitely something important there, and then I'll go back and check each code before, but food, gorging, compulsion, disgust. Look, if you are listening to this and you haven't yet listened to the episode, for whatever reason, if you listened to these before, I don't know why you would, Please don't be eating when you do this. I have a plate here that was my lunch was gonna go on because I set the episode up and I was listening to it and I was taking notes and my food was heating up. And at a point I went in there and stopped my food from heating up anymore. And I'll go back and finish cooking it after I get done recording this because it takes a lot to turn my stomach. This one got there. Like, I made it through all of archives without any, like, stopping, not being able to eat or anything like that, right? It takes a lot. This succeeded. So let's talk about it. First, we have Alice being worried about everybody. Sam telling her everybody's okay. You know, Celia made sure to tell her that, hey, I'm okay. No monsters have got me. Alice is freaking out. You know, everybody's okay. When Norris interrupts them with a case, and this is a weird case to interrupt them with, but it seems like Norris might be trying to help them heal in a weird way, because this case leads them to laugh and joke together again. And I'm so sorry, I don't mean to get distracted. I have just noticed that there is, I say let, she probably would have been in here without me letting her anyway, but I let a spider stay in this room, and she has formed a web right here. I'm not touching it, but it's right here, and she has caught a fresh fly in it. And I just think there's something really fascinating about the fact that when I'm talking about Magnus is when she catches a fly in her web. I'm just trapped in the web of the web, aren't I? Anyway, it seems like Norris is trying to bring them together because he gives them a case about Kieran Hart, who writes the Hungry Man, who writes the Dirty Eating review. Make sure I have that name right. I didn't actually take that down in my notes for some reason. He writes Dirty Eating, and he writes it for Muse 9 Publishing. And so Tom Connolly is sending him a response of being like, hey, what is this review? You know, we gotta get this figured out. But Kieran Hart is probably not going to respond because he's probably dead. Anyway, Kieran Hart, we get the copy of the original email, and he gives a full review of him eating at the Hungry Man Grill. And this is yet again a situation where the person cannot remember how it started. How did this name get on my list? How did this address get written down? The address wasn't even right, but I found the alley that was connected to it. How did this? I don't remember this being on there. And yet, it is. So, Kieran normally eats. I'm going to be very... Oh, I'm trying not to throw up. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I try to be professional and have a good time. This is disgusting. Like my mouth is salivating because my body is like, hey, no, we got you, bro. We'll get rid of this for you right now. It's like, it's not food I ate, man. Normally he eats before he goes to do one of his reviews so that he can hold back hunger and he can only eat as much as he has to. The whole point of the reviews is 2000s era Gordon Ramsay going and eating and just having a good time. And I like bashing the food, you know, being angry. I tried to find the Hungry Man Grill, and I found one in Jersey, off the shores of France, and that's not probably the one he's talking about here, but you know. Regardless, even though he'd already eaten, he finds himself ravenous, and even though he has to walk past bags of trash covered in maggots, I told you this one's gonna get gross. You might want to skip to this other timestamp that's gonna be right here. I'm giving myself so much editing work to do if you don't want to hear any of this. Anyway, he sits down at a table and there's other diners there and they're weeping as they're eating. And he's brought the first course, which is a soup filled with thin white strands that crawl down his throat. And then a burger filled with weevils in the bun. and then ice cream cake. And his hunger just continues to grow. And the cook, the chef, who looks like he's been drugged through a bunch of oil, he goes back into the kitchen, and Kieran realizes that he has to leave, that he's going to go back and bring out more food, and he's not going to be able to resist it once it is on his plate. And so he forces himself to leave. And I know you may say, man, Trey, that is like, you just took 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the episode and just condensed it down into 4 sentences. I can't talk about it more than that. I'm so sorry. I'm doing my best to hold myself together. And if I talk about it in more detail, I'm gonna rupture. But on the plus side, this definitely like feels like another mix between entities, right? From archives, it feels like a mix between flesh and corruption, right? And yet again, my theory of they fractured, maybe they were controlled by Albertus Magnus, and now they fractured into smaller versions, and this could be rot, right? This could be fetid despair. This could be the need for consumption with the mire of rot, right? But it also could be something else that we're going to get into, because he says after he leaves that he's done. He's terrified if he goes into another restaurant, he might just return there, which is a fascinating thing to think about, especially in the context of what's happening with Celia. But also that the food continues to grow inside his belly, and that it bloats and distends. Is this also a new you kind of thing, where the people eat until the food bursts out of their body? Is what is the ultimate end goal here if the food is growing within him? Is this like the snakes? Is this just more corruption? This could be so many things, and I hate having to think about it, right? Ugh. But it could be. Not just specifically as in new you. I know, and I want to respond to this here. There were some comments that were like, hey, you're focusing too much on the new you. Not everything is a new you. Not every case makes sense by that. No, I agree. I don't think they all do. I just think it could be where some of the externals have come from, right? But also, what if this is not the new you? What if this is completely separate from that without your peace that you needed? You know, and this is specifically the new form of the corruption, that you eat a meal that has weevils or snakes in it, and then you become full of them. Because the bloating and distending reminds me a lot of the man running the pet shop that was full of snakes. At the time, I thought that was probably just, horrifying. But then after the new you stuff, I was like, well, maybe that's just the, final form of that. But now I'm wondering if that's not this, whatever this is that grows and changes inside you. And could it be connected to last episode with Rupert and the new you? Absolutely. They could all just be facets of a transformation, right? Because this is alchemy we're talking about, and transmutation is kind of the thing. But none of these actually serve to give you the Philosopher's Stone. They don't serve to finish the great work, right? But it could be that they were all different attempts at it. The two separate souls in one body as the splitting of the mind. That could be another attempt at it, right? What Isaac Newton was trying to do. These all could be different attempts at transmutation, and they've grown and changed on their own now. They are not what they once were, right? And that also leads me into thinking that maybe error is another attempt at a transmutation. It is a human transmutation, right? A human sacrifice. And that's what's combined them together. We'll see. Might not be, but there's transmutation is definitely a huge theme here, and we've seen a lot of attempts of that in different ways, and this seems like it's just another way to try that, right? And instead, the chemicals being used here and the metals being used are those within the person's body. So anyway, from there, Sam and Alice have a nice little moment where they talk about uni and shows that Alice was actually listening to this case. Because she's spooked now. She wants to know more. And then Colin comes in the room with a hammer, smashes a monitor, and tries to get to the server room. They try to talk him down. He takes a swing at Alice. Sam intervenes. And Colin winds up getting hauled away. They lose 3 monitors and a server rack in the ensuing scuffle. And there's a really fascinating line here where Sam is like, hey, maybe we could go talk about this somewhere where they're not listening, Colin, where it's not listening to us. And Colin says there isn't anywhere. Because whatever, if it's the eye, if it's Freddy, whatever it is that is listening always, and they can't get away from it. So then Lena, dresses him down about, hey, that's not how this should have been done. You should have called the police. You shouldn't have attacked him. Sam tells her he was just trying to defend Alice, and she chuckles a little. But then Sam asks her, hey, shouldn't we take this seriously? What if Colin's right? And Lena gives the most robotic response she's given yet of the system, no matter what quirks it might have, is essential for departmental functionality. Again, I'm not saying Lena definitely is a robot, but this is if she's not a robot, this is a mantra she has had to remind herself and now takes on the form of a response, right? Then Lena says she's got to replace Colin and that she's not afraid to replace Celia while she's at it if she keeps being absent. And this cuts us to Celia, who is yet again absent because she has wound up near Oxford and is trying to get a ticket back to London, having most likely been transported again. Is it transported? Is it teleported? Is she falling through the world? What is going on here? But at first we considered sleepwalking, right? But how could she have sleptwalked all the way to Oxford? It's interesting. There's definitely something more going on there, and I wonder if this world is rejecting her and sending her back near to Hilltop Road to try and send her back. And that's why she keeps waking up out here. One time she woke up on a train track. So it's entirely possible that the world laws have rejected her, right? But it could also be sleepwalking, and we'll see. I'm really curious to see more about that. I rambled a lot this episode about theories and things like that. And if you're interested in more, let me know in the comment section down below. I love talking about this stuff. The more that I study about alchemy for the sake of this, the more terrible things that I see that have been done in the name of alchemy that remind me that, hey, this is not just the cool thing that, is about transmutation. It also, unfortunately, heralded in terrible horrors to the world. And we see that in Protocol. So, let me know your thoughts, because I'm still jazzed to talk about all this. This series is cool. It's great. This episode was disgusting, and I don't ever want to think about it again, but I feel like I'm going to have to. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum. Magnus Protocol has to offer.